Okay, so it's been a couple days after I did the neck, and now we're going to go on to the body. The body's been curing about, I want to say, 6 days. You can let it cure longer if you want. You can let it cure shorter if you want. It's really up to you. But I find that it buffs out the best if I let it cure after I apply the final coat of finish for about 4 to 5, maybe even 6 days. So this is just like doing the neck. What we're going to do is we're going to start with 800 grit, and it's the stuff that's in this Super Acilex kit. And we will basically do this by hand. Now, I did show you in an earlier clip using some pneumatic power tools or some pneumatic sanders to do this. You can do the final leveling and polishing stages with the pneumatic sanders, but I really recommend, if this is your first couple times doing this by hand to get used to it. It's really easy to go through an edge or make a mistake with the pneumatic sanders. So the reason I use the pneumatic sanders is just because, as being an older person, my wrists are a little arthritic and they just get really sore. And so I did get into using the pneumatic sanders, but I suggest you do this by hand. So we'll start with the back, and I'm working on a downdraft table here, so I won't be wearing a mask so you can hear me, but basically it's very simple. The only thing is I'm using a little bit wider Mirka pad. This is the one that is about half of the width of the original one. And we're starting with 800 grit, and I'm going to use the hard side of the block. Now, you will find that this stuff sands really easily, but you do have to remove the dust periodically. I showed you how to do that. And you should be able to maybe use 1 or maybe even 2 sheets of sandpaper for the initial leveling. I find that as you go up the grits and change to the 1000, 1215, and so on, that you only have to use 1 sheet. So I'm not going to bore you with how to do this. Basically, it's just a matter of sanding until all the shiny spots are gone, surface texture's gone, it's dead flat. And what I'll do is I'll just jump ahead after doing this for a while and show you what it looks like after I sand it. As I explained before, once you're done with a particular grit, wipe it off or wipe that dust and debris off with a microfiber cloth. But this is what you're looking for. Okay? That's the kind of surface you want. Just a dull kind of flat look with no shiny spots, no texture, no nothing. So that's the back. You flip it over to the top, the sides, and quite frankly, you'll spend most of the time in the Rubout procedure with the 800 grit to level it. After that, it goes pretty easily. So just in case you want to know what I use to level and polish the body using the pneumatic sanders, I use a 6-inch Dynabraid sander, and it's, in all their models, it's the heaviest one. And the reason I use the heaviest one is because it flattens the best because of the weight of it. When it comes to the sides, I'll go back to using my little 3-inch pneumatic sander. I don't want to use that big sander on the sides because I've tried that in the past and it's very hard to keep it level, and if you just tip it just a bit, you'll burn right through a side. And so anyways, as I mentioned, if this is the first time you're doing this, do this by hand. It's a lot safer. And once you get the hang of how it goes, you can then upgrade to your pneumatic tools. There are electric versions of these available if you want to use them. I use the pneumatic just because they're a lot more lightweight and easier for me to control. So, onward. We'll pick it up once we're all done with the leveling process. I'll show you the entire body, and then I'll demonstrate or talk about the procedure going forward. I should mention that, like with the pad that you use by hand, sanders, pneumatic sanders, come with a flat pad, and then they also come what's called interface pad. An interface pad is what you use to get into the waist, maybe the cutaway, in any non-flat areas. So just thought I'd mention that. Okay, so I finished the body with 800 grit. Once again, you want to use the hard side of this block to flat sand or remove the texture. But then you can switch to the softer side to get into areas like the cutaway and other hard to get at areas with the flat sanding block. This arm bevel here, which is kind of three-dimensional, I will use the soft side and very lightly sand it. You don't want to cut through by using the hard side of the block, so I will just get it done with the soft side. Once I'm done, I'll go over the entire instrument with a microfiber cloth to get rid of any dust. And this is what you're looking for. No shiny spots, no low spots, no texture from the spray gun, no nothing. So basically, I won't go over, or I won't show you the other steps, but basically it's just a simple procedure of changing over now to the 1000 grit, the 1200, the 1500, the 2000, the 2500, and the 3000. I will urge you to not skip grits. If you skip a grit, you will be sorry. I guarantee it, because I've tried to make this whole process more efficient, and every time I do that, I have to go back after buffing because I see some scratches and things like that. Now, I will mention one thing. Once you do get through flat sanding with the 800, what I do is when I switch to the 1000 grit and the 12 and all that, I just use the soft side. And the reason I do that is as follows. Once you flat sand with 800 grit, all you really want to do with the subsequent grits is to refine the scratch pattern. And by that, what I mean is that you just want to remove those scratches from 800 and replace them with 1000. If you continue to use the higher grits with the hard side of the pad, I find that it goes a little bit, the scratches go a little bit deeper, and they'll show up at the end of this whole procedure when we go to buff it out. So use the soft side from now on. That's pretty much it. If you notice a problem area that you have to fix with glue boost, do it now. Doing glue boost repairs at the very end of this procedure, it's very difficult to get rid of that little halo that you get with it. So try to do it now so that you can basically refine that whole area that you repaired with the glue boost with the scratch patterns from the next grits. So I won't go into any more filming of this procedure. I'll just show you what it looks like at the end with 3000, and then we'll go hit it on the buffer. Over and out. Okay, folks, we've completed the least sanding portion of the rub-out process, and I've got it all sanded up to 3000 grit. No water at all. Doing completely dry sanding using the Eagle abrasives. Just a quick programming note here. You can use, as I mentioned, a pneumatic tools if you wish. I suggest you do this all by hand though until you get comfortable with it. When you get to the 3000 stage though, the P3000 or K3000, using the soft side of the block, just run that over the sharp edges or the rounded over edges of the binding, just like that. You're not really sanding much. All you're doing is just kind of killing any sort of residual finish that might be there, or kind of a sharp or rough edge. And because you're using the 3000 grit, you've got no chance of rubbing through. So once you're done with that, it's off to the buffer. And before we get into the buffer, I just want to make a couple of programming notes. For those of you that take my finishing class, you will note that when we do it, we go to a buffer using a coarse Manzurna or Jeskar Glansmack grit. Pneumatic doesn't sell one. The reason I go to a coarse grit after this seems a little bit counterintuitive, but it really efficiently and quickly removes any scratches that might be left over from the sanding process. You can go straight to the medium wheel and then the fine and extra fine wheel if you want. You'll just spend a little bit more time with the medium wheel. So we're gonna go over to the buffer. We're gonna let this just sit for a while. We'll go over to the buffer. We'll buff this out as best as we can using the medium wheel and then the fine wheel, and we'll show you what it looks like. So hang in there. Okay, so we're back at the Pneumatic buffer with the medium wheel here, and there's a fine one over here which you can't see. I've got my grip gloves. I've got my respirator or dust mask. So we'll turn this on, we'll buff this for a little bit and just kind of show you the basics of buffing the body. I'm starting with the medium wheel. So that's pretty much it. You get a pretty nice gloss just with the medium wheel, but you'll do even better if you go to the fine wheel and then maybe the extra fine. There's 3 Pneumatic compounds, so you need 3 wheels. One thing, as I mentioned earlier, is that what I do typically is I use a coarse buffing wheel first, then I go to the medium wheel and then the fine wheel. But again, Pneumatic doesn't sell the coarse, so I'm going to show you just the medium. It's fine. You can do it either way. It's just that I find, as I mentioned before, it's a lot more efficient if you start with the coarse wheel and then go to the medium. So that's it for an Ilva finish. I'll try and get a photo or a little video when I'm done with the guitar, when it's got strings on and all that stuff. But that's pretty much how you do an Ilva finish. I hope you enjoyed this. It's a lot of fun to do this and document it while I do it in real time and in real life. I know that when you're trying to learn something, just reading it off of a text sheet or something like that is really difficult. It really speeds up the learning curve if you can watch somebody to do it. So I'll see you on the flip side. Take care and keep your wits and your tools sharp.